Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Bucco Brew, powered by DeFair Coffee and Tea. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, of course, we have Jim Rosati. Jim, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing wonderful. Coffee's in hand. And yeah, a new show. New season, new show. I mean, it's the same show, but new name, new sponsor. Yeah, it's exciting times.
It's very exciting. Yeah. Hey, Jim. It's real coffee. We got real caffeine now.
Yep.
Some actual substance to the show. No, not really. Don't expect that. But we have a good sponsor. and it is DeFair Coffee and Tea. And of course, let me just tell you a little bit about DeFair Coffee and Tea. DeFair is a family and employee owned and operated business. They believe that coffee and tea are one of life's simplest and most accessible pleasures, and when enjoyed thoroughly, can open your eyes and can open your eyes to the here and now. We have 5 locations across the city of Pittsburgh, including our flagship in our heart of Pittsburgh historic Strip District. To learn more, check us out on Instagram or head on over to our website at defair.coffee. Jim, welcome to Bucco Brew, baby.
Good stuff. No, I'm excited. I'm excited. All of our partners have been awesome. Yeah, excited to have a new one. Yeah. So if you're in Pittsburgh and you like coffee or you like tea, or even if you don't like coffee and tea, head on over to the fair, one of their 5 locations.
That's it. Yeah, I'm excited. It's about partnership. I'm excited.
Yep.
Things we have maybe cooking up with them. So yeah, stay tuned. But again, also just the name, Bucco Brew. Look at that logo. How nice. Look at the name just rolls, Bucco Brew. Sean here says has much more homerism and is all for it. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, maybe no potential lawsuits coming down the line. So
also it's better than the way the Pirates started.
It's way better. It's way better than what the Pirates started. Jim, do we have enough time on Bucco Brew to get off our chest of what I want to get off the chest with? I don't know if we do.
I think we're gonna have to stay on task. Like we've got quite a few things to discuss. Ugly start to the year, but I think we can. Yeah, we've got enough time. We can make it happen. Let's get.
This is pathetic. I just want to start there. That's all. I just want to start there. It was pathetic. It was absolutely pathetic. I mean, I was excited for opening day, as we should. Right, an opening day is opening day, whatever. But I mean, you just want to talk about to sum up the series in one word: pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, this team that we faced was bad, and it was rough baseball. The games were not enjoyable for the most part. Yeah, the post games were. It was therapeutic for me to get through 2 of those post game shows. I did 2 of the walk-off losses this series, so it was nice to kind of just get stuff off my chest immediately following the games. But yeah, there's some problems here, and they need to be fixed, and they need to be fixed pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just where I'm at. That's why the stuff I was saying on Twitter yesterday, and just my whole thought. I mean, you can't have this type of play. If your desires are playoffs and you're talking the talk about it's time to win, you can't do it by looking the way they did this series. By the mental mistakes, just the complete. They had no idea how to play the game of baseball. That's not a successful plan. Again, for a team that lacks the talent that other playoff caliber teams certainly have, you can't make mistakes. You can't have the play that they played this series and think you're going to win. You have to do those things correct. You can't be untalented and just terrible at baseball. What are you doing? Anyways, yeah, we're going to talk some more, of course, about this team here. We'll talk about, we'll recap the series. We'll talk about the bullpen and all its issues, of course. Oneil Cruz, the good, the bad, the ugly. And we do have a Rays series coming up. We'll preview, which good.
Yeah, turn the page. I guess that's the one good thing about baseball, right? Is like, hey, you just had a bad series, new one starts today.
Right.
They can all change.
That's
it. Can all change like super quick.
100%. So, let's kind of recap the series here, Jim. Before we do, of course, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on all the madness. Even if your bracket is busted, BetOnline has more ways to stay on the action, from the Sweet 16 bracket and live betting on every remaining tournament game. With the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to MLB, NHL, and MMA, BetOnline continues to be the number one sports betting source. From every Cinderella story to every hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more from every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. So, coming into the season, much like last season, there was somewhat of an identity. Last year, we thought it was the bullpen. Shorten the games up, let the bullpen take over. That's how this team's going to win, right? This year, a little bit differently. Maybe not shortening the game, maybe lengthening the game. Hey, the starting pitching is good, so let them do their thing here. Starting pitching proved every bit so far in this 4-game series to be that. Very solid. Ironically, Paul Skeens right now might be the worst pitcher in the rotation.
You look at it, Paul Skeens has the worst ERA of the bunch, right? Which is wild to consider because he pitched well. His ERA is the only one in the 3s, I believe. But yeah, starting pitching top to bottom, Skeens with a nice start on opening day. Mitch Keller going 6 innings, giving up just a run. Bailey Falter going 6 innings, giving up 2 runs. And then yesterday, Andrew Heaney making his Pirates debut, 5 innings, 1 run. Like the starting pitching showed up, which the recipe for success this year was that. So like they kind of stuck to that script for the first half of the game where it's like, okay, the way that we're going to win is we're going to have really good starting pitching. And then that was it. They forgot about the rest. But that was the start. Like, so they at least did that part right. But no, outstanding starting pitching, I thought. And you can say, well, it's the Marlins. They were facing the Marlins, they're facing this AAA lineup, and that's true. Like you look at this Marlins lineup, it's probably similar to what the Indianapolis Indians are going to face tomorrow. Like it's not that much different. But the pitchers did what they were supposed to do. They performed. They gave you quality starts. I think all 4 pitchers left the game with the lead. So like you can't really ask for much more than that.
Yeah.
Everyone was in line for the win when they left the game. So they all did their job.
100% agree. And I get it. It's the Marlins, right? But there are certainly things to take away from that series from all starting pitchers to say that was good. Regardless. Again, Paul Skeens is Paul Skeens. We know he's going to be good. Ironically, we joke that he's the worst pitcher in this rotation right now because of the ERA, but he looked good. One of those runs probably shouldn't have been on his ERA line anyways, but I digress. Mitch Keller. What's Mitch Keller going to be this year? Who is Mitch Keller? He ditches the cutter. How's that going to look? That was a talk with spring. It's a new and improved Mitch Keller potentially. He's lost his worst pitch. Got teed off all these past few years, and he looked good. He looked good. No matter who was on that other, in the batter box, he looked good. And Bailey Falter, I can't say enough. We know his limitations. He's gonna be a guy that has to hit his spots, and he was doing it mostly. But he was throwing a little harder this time. What's that about? We'll find out. But he looked solid too. Like he's Bailey Falter. He's your 5th starter essentially. 4th at this point in time. And Andrew Heaney is Andrew Heaney. He came out and showed why spring doesn't truly matter, right? So again, 4 up, 4 down. All 4 look solid to be what you want them to be. And maybe there's a little bit more to watch around. But like starting pitching was solid. It was good. That's how this team's going to win, and they showed it. If they're going to win, it's going to be by the starting pitching. Unfortunately, they showed if they're going to lose, it's going to be all the other sources, and they proved why that's also the case.
Yeah. I want to hit on a couple things there before we move. Keller ditching the cutter, I think, could potentially be a pretty big move. And we saw it all throughout spring training. Like he wasn't getting hit as hard because he wasn't throwing his worst pitch. And he started on Friday. That start, I thought he looked outstanding. Like he was hitting his spots. He was missing bats. He was causing weak contact. He didn't get a ton of strikeouts, but he was efficient. He was retiring hitters quickly. Didn't really run into all too much trouble throughout that game.
Yeah.
He had a really, really nice start. So I'm excited to see how this cutterless Mitch Keller can look as the season progresses, because his stuff's good. His command's good. He's got a really good feel for what he does out there. And yeah, I mean, if you just eliminate your worst pitch, do you get just automatically better just by doing that? We're going to find out. So,
right. No, I mean, that's a good point. It's easy to say that. Well, just lose your first pitch, but doesn't necessarily mean you're just going to be that much better.
Yep.
I do think in Mitch's case, though, there's a really good potential for that to happen. But
there is. Yeah.
it's not always just that simple. But you're 100% correct. I mean, that guy has looked good.
Yeah, and then with Skeens, like I said, he probably had the worst start out of anybody, which is crazy to think about. But he's going to bounce back. He's going to have a good start on. He starts on Wednesday is his next outing. But yeah, I thought overall rotation, like I have no complaints about this rotation 4 games in. They did everything that they needed to do to give you the chance to win these games.
Yeah, 100%. Then it turned over to the bullpen. Not much has changed from last year so far that we're seeing. It's 4 games. I don't want to. So here's the thing, and I want to state this because I'm going to say some things. I don't want to overreact in this sense. Like it is 4 games. Like this is where it is 4 games, right? If the Pirates look this way in June, no one's talking as much about the way they are right now, but it's 4 games. They're 1-3, and the only 4 games that you have to see. This is the only sample size you have, so that's what you're going to talk about. But there is some carryover. Like who is Colin Holderman, right? He looked outstanding, and he looked very, very, very terrible, and cost part. He's part of the reason the Pirates were in the playoffs last year. If there was a chance of being there, right? He didn't look good. Like I said, 2 blown saves in 3 games. David Bednar. I'm not putting all the blame on him on the first game, right? Like Oneil Cruz, what are you doing? But still, David Bednar, I'm not trusting him at this point. Like he hasn't earned back my trust. When Derek Shelton's talking in spring training that we have no closer, well, guess what, buddy? I think you're correct. There's no one on this team that I'm looking at and saying, "Hey, you're the closer." No one's earning it. It's the same situation as last year at this point in time. Like I felt like you could probably be comfortable with this bullpen in 2025 more than you were last year. I felt more confident that David Bednar is going to turn around. Colin Holderman's not going to be the guy that you saw, saying the trade deadline and on. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think I was wrong. Maybe.
I mean, you bring up a good point, and I think fans need to. There's a few ways to look at this. One, yeah, it's 4 games, and if you take 4 games and you look at it over 162 game season, if this were the Steelers, we'd be talking about, the second quarter still going on in week 1. Like that's kind of where we're at if you compare it to like a football season here, right?
Mm-hmm.
With that being said,
it's probably still the first quarter.
With that being said, you are seeing the same things. Like, I think that's where it's like, yeah, it's 4 games, but, like, it's not that they just look bad. It's that they look exactly the same as they looked previously. And so it's just going to be your reaction. This is the same team that I've been watching for a while. This is the same team that wasn't even trying to win for a few years. And now they're trying to win and they still look exactly the same. They're still making the exact same mistakes. They're still having the exact same things happen to the bullpen. They're still like Colin Holderman still not capable of holding leads in big moments. David Bednar still giving up meatballs. Like that's where it's still concerning is yeah, it's 4 games. And 4 games over 162 game season is nothing. It's basically nothing.
Right.
But the fact that it just looks exactly the same, that's where it's like you got to think about it a little bit because yeah, it's 4 games, but like okay, it's not 4 games. This is 6 years now of us seeing the same stuff from the same front office people, from the same coaching staff, from the same manager, from the same players or types of players. You know, you got journeymen out there. You've got guys who have been struggling to make jumps from AAA to the majors. Like that's where it's concerning. Has anything changed with this group? You know, 2021 or 2022, you look at an opening day lineup and it's like, this is who we're trotting out there. Yesterday, you look at the lineup and you're like, this is who we're trotting out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the biggest concern for me and for probably most Pirates fans is like, it's supposed to be different right now. And it just doesn't seem like it is.
What I think is funny and ironic in the whole thing that you mentioned here is that's who you're trotting out there. Because part of that's who you're trotting out there is now Adam Frazier. He's probably one of the better Pirates right now.
Frazier and IKF.
You know what?
Yeah,
I look I look at Adam Frazier. I'm like, I'm more confident in you of making sure this gets done today. Because he looked, I mean, honestly, I'm not talking about the bat, but like he looked good in the field. He made some big clutch plays. If Adam Frazier wasn't there doing that, the way the rest of this team performed, right? If it wasn't Frazier on the back of the jersey at second base yesterday, or multiple days, right? Like the Pirates even have those chances of being in the game. I don't know because that's just like what you're saying, like things being the same. That's what's my problem. And it's not even so much the performance because it is 4 games. It very much could be like, listen, you're coming out of spring, you're a little bit flat today. You still don't have the feel of the pitch today, or you're still not seeing the ball well and you struggled. You had a bad series, you went 1 for 10 or something like it, but like that happens. And that's where like the record, right? The blowing up, the overreacting because you went 1-3 versus the Marlins. I don't care that you went 1-3 versus the Marlins. Like that's not what bothers me. It's not how's this team going to win this year and they go 1-3 versus the Marlins. That happens. Like the terrible ass Pirates swept the Dodgers a few years ago. Like that happens. I don't care that you went 1-3 versus the Marlins. Like what I care about is how you looked playing the game of baseball. And it didn't look like you guys had any idea of how to do that. That's the stuff that's inexcusable. Right? Like David Bednar having the 2 blown saves, Colin Holderman having the 2 blown saves. Like, yeah, it sucks and that can't happen. And like you want and should do better. But I'm not even worried about that. Like what worries me and bothers me is not knowing how to steal a bag. Being sent home when there's no outs and you're trying to win a game. When the ball was nowhere like that, you should not be sent home. You should not be sending Tommy Pham home in that situation. Right? When you can't throw down to second base to record a stolen, a caught stealing, throw out a runner. When you can't catch a routine fly ball, when you dive for a ball that is nowhere near you, when you throw to the wrong base twice. Like just the thing, like just all the stuff over and over. When you're stealing, you get caught for the third out, trying to steal third base. Just like all the mistakes that happened in this 4-game series. That's what bothers me. That's the carryover that bothers me, where nothing looks the same. There is more talent on this team. Arguably not that much more, but there's certainly more talent on this team than 2020 and 2021 and 2022 and 2023 and 2024. But you're still making the same mental mistakes. You still don't understand how to play the game of baseball. And you know who does? The Brewers, the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Braves, the teams that you think you're fighting for to get into the playoffs that are much more talented than you, they also can do the small things right. And if you can't do those things, you have no fighting chance to make the playoffs this year. That's what bothers me in this 4-game series. There was no, like, they looked like they were not mentally in the game. They were not prepared from coaching down to the players. This is not a playoff caliber team in any way, shape, or form. And I don't want this team leaving Miami to go to Tampa. And as you say, like that's saving grace. And I that's what's good about baseball. Like you can't turn the page. It's the Braves start anew. But you can't start anew and have the same mentality. Like there better been some talks. And that's why I said, like, Tommy Pham better be Tommy Phamming right now in that locker room. Because you cannot go into Tampa with the same mindset, the same carryover that you had in Miami and expect to beat the Rays. Because the Rays also a team that does things well.
Yeah. I mean, you're 100% correct. I think there were some things the Pirates did do well in this series. Like I loved the aggressiveness on the base paths. Last year, they were second in Major League Baseball in stolen base percentage. So they clearly came into this series saying, hey, let's exploit that a little bit. Like when we try to steal bases, we're typically pretty successful doing so. So let's steal more. And they did. I mean, they broke the record, right? The major league record for most stolen bases in 3 games. They broke it to start the season. So that's the kind of stuff that I like to see. I mean, as a team, they're sitting at 15 stolen bases. They're the only team with double-digit stolen bases right now. So I mean, they're way ahead of the next guy. The issue,
add
though,
something to that.
yeah,
The wildest stat I think I've heard in my life.
crazy,
It's like
crazy
through
stat.
3
Like,
games, the Pirates had 25% of stolen bases in Major League Baseball.
yeah, crazy. But then, like you said, they couldn't actually execute when they got those guys in scoring. Like they were getting into scoring position at will. Every time they got on first base, it was like automatic. Boom, they're in scoring position. They're on second base now. But then we talk about this team who we were wondering all offseason, like who's going to provide the offense here? Who's going to produce runs? Who's going to hit? Well, through 4 games, they're batting 184.
Mm-hmm.
And they're slugging 279. That's 26th in slugging, 25th in hitting. So this is the problem that we thought going into this year was, okay, how are we going to score? They showed us that they've got a strategy to do that. The strategy is, hey, let's take some extra bases. Let's steal some bags. Let's put pressure on this opposing defense. And that strategy worked, but it's like they completely missed the next part, which was, okay, well, you still have to hit them in. Like someone has to put the ball in play, someone has to hit it hard, and someone has to hit those guys in. I liked what I saw from them in terms of like getting on base. They got on base, 317 clip. They were stealing bags. It was just once they got into a position to score, they just weren't able to do it. And it's what sucks about it is a lot of times it was the guys like Joey Bart had a terrible game, terrible series when it came to, executing with runners in scoring position. Brian Reynolds, not his best series. Oneil Cruz had a good series, but you saw him strike out in a big spot, yesterday in a pinch hitting appearance. Yeah, it was just the offense is going to be the big concern, and that's what we thought coming in, and it just kind of reared its ugly head that first series where that's going to be this team's problem. Because you can look at the bullpen, you can look at Colin Holderman and David Bednar, and yeah, like alarms going off all over the place.
Right.
But overall, like the whole pitching staff as a whole performed fairly well. Outside Holderman and Bednar, like the bullpen was pretty good. Caleb
Mhm.
Ferguson looked pretty good. Ryan Barucki looked good. Joey Wentz had a really gutsy performance, I thought, on Saturday. Pitching in the extra innings, he got tagged with the loss, but like it wasn't his fault. He was
Mhm.
in inning number 3 of a guy starting on second, and he finally let one score. So it's I think the pitching staff as a whole is going to be in a good spot. They really need to figure out like how to get Bednar and Holderman on track. That's going to be like the last thing that kind of brings this whole staff together. But man, offensively, I like what they're doing. Like I think they found a way. Like if this is going to be their way to score runs, I'm all for it.
Mhm.
Because they've got the athletes to do it. They were successful executing that plan all weekend. It's just, what are you going to do once they get to second? How are you going to
Right.
get that run in? Because they were getting to second base. They were getting into scoring position. They just couldn't execute once they got there.
I do just want to bring this up, and this isn't me trying to justify the offense by any means. You have to find a way to score runs, right? Everything you said was valid, but also something to kind of keep of note. It's 4 games, so it's 4 games for your thing you're talking about. It's also 4 games for what I'm talking about. Things could change quickly after Tampa, right? They lead MLB in walk rate. They're 15th in strikeout rate. The walk so far way up, strikeouts kind of down. Um, just again, like something of note. There's a new hitting coach. Yes, you have to hit the ball, you have to make contact with the ball, you have to score runs, all that. I get it, right? But just something to kind of put out there if you're gonna look what maybe is a little bit different, right? Let's what were they doing good, I guess, if you want to say that there was a good thing of the offense. And Oneil Cruz is a big part of that. Like you did say he struck out in a big spot, but he looked pretty good at the plate. Jack looked pretty good at the plate. The walks were way up. They weren't really striking out a ton. Again, yes, I understand it's the Marlins. There was an intentional walk thrown in there as well. Maybe they weren't pitching as tough to some guys, allowing them to walk. So like you could maybe factor in. That's why 4 games. It's a small sample, but again, like I just want to point out, and Cruz really is a big part of this. Like there was some of that. And again, to talk about Cruz specifically, he offensively, preference that he looked good. And when he's getting on the bases, man, we had our over and unders. I stated here, I was like, I'm going to go with that over because I already said Oneil Cruz having 40 stolen bases this year. And I don't know if his 40 was enough. I think I'm going to look silly that just 40 you predicted because he has 4 stolen bases in 4 games. And in one of those games, he was just a pinch hitter. So Jim, yeah, we're going to talk something positive on the offense and stuff. I'm absolutely with you too. I love the aggressiveness. If this team is going to find a way to win and find ways to be creative and score runs, it's not by hitting the ball over the fence. It's going to be by doing this stuff. Now they have to execute, but they have the idea at play, and it seems like they're running with that idea.
Yeah. Listen, if you're not gonna hit the ball over the fence, you got to figure out a way. And I think they've at least identified their way.
Right.
And they executed half of that.
Right.
Now, let's even say they executed 2/3 of it. Like they got on base, which they did. They got on base at a nice clip. They took their extra bags. It's just once then it all stopped.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I mean, speaking of Cruz, I mean, if we want to kind of dive into that a little bit, he showed us the entire Oneil Cruz experience, just from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum and everywhere in between this series. He showed you just how much impact he can have in a baseball game. Like that Friday game, I mean, he won that game. Like he won it. Without him, you don't win. And like that's the kind of impact he can have, is getting on base, putting pressure on the defense, scoring runs, hitting the ball over the fence, just kind of just being a disruptor and an electrifying player. Like you saw that out of Oneil Cruz this weekend. Then you saw the other side of Oneil Cruz, where he wasn't hustling on a double, where if he would have been going full speed right off the bat, he probably scores a run. And now we're talking about a different outcome on Saturday. Throwing the ball to the wrong base on 2 occasions. And actually, I'll say it on 1 occasion. The second one, which came on Saturday, the one that he kind of airmailed a little bit, I'm not going to fault him for throwing the ball home there. What I am going to fault him for is you've got to at least put it in a spot where your cutoff man has the chance to catch the ball. Like, go ahead and throw the ball home, but you've got to make sure that that cutoff man, it's not so far over his head that the guy who hit the ball, the batter, can just walk into second base. Because if the batter at least has it in his mind, this ball could get cut off, he's staying at first.
Right.
All right. But when you airmail it over the cutoff man and you throw it high, that's just, the guy can just walk to second at that point. It's so easy to read those. Like they're going to go to second every single time. So like I don't mind the aggressiveness with trying to get that base runner out at home. I mean, that was the tying run. Like, go ahead and try to get him out. But you've got to execute your throw a little bit better. You've got to make it so that that guy on first doesn't just walk into second, because that's if the tying run scores, then that's the game winning run that you're letting to get into scoring position. So it's just, it's 20. He's played now 31 games in center field. So I think you still have to remember that, like, it's not a position he's played his whole life. He's had like 6 months to learn this, and this isn't an excuse, because like this is Major League Baseball. You got to figure it out. Like you don't have the time to learn the position. We're talking about a team who's trying to win baseball games right now. Derek Shelton said, "What? It's time to win." Right? It is time to win. It's not time to learn. This is not the major learning baseball association, right? This is Major League Baseball. The goal is to win games, and he needs to learn center field, and he needs to learn how to make those decisions way quicker than he is. But yeah, I mean, you saw the whole experience this weekend. Bad routes, dropping a fly ball, throwing the ball the wrong base, airmailing people, but then also being electric on offense, getting on base. I mean, he had a 471 on base percentage. He has a 35% walk rate, 4 stolen bases, home run on a pitch that I don't know how he kept that ball fair, and he pulled it over the fence. So like, there's signs there where it's like, okay, is Oneil Cruz ready to take that next step? But it's like, there's still a lot to work on here.
100%. And that's why I said it on the post game, and I just want to reiterate it right now too. Like, I know what you're saying. It's not totally fair to Oneil Cruz. This wouldn't be fair to anybody. To start off, like, it's not just because it's Oneil Cruz. It's not totally fair to anybody. He unfortunately has to learn quickly. But the thing is, like, I understand and expect you're going to see some flaws. You're going to see mistakes because he's new. That's just, you're going to have that. I'm okay that he's going to have some mistakes. It's how do you learn from it, right? How do you learn from the mistake? And that's why the first time it was just like when he threw the home, I get it. I get it. It sucks. I get it. You can't do that, Oneil, but like, also I get it. It's the second time when you do it. It's like, hey, buddy, like we just went through this. Now, just 2 days later, same situation, you're doing it again. That's where my problem is, right? Like, that's where the learning comes into play. It's okay, you made the mistake. I understand. There's a learning opportunity for you. But now, did you learn from it? That's where the problem is going to be with Oneil Cruz in this situation. We're going to have mistakes, I'm sure, in May and June. Something's going to come up, and it's like, oh, what are you doing? But it's like, you know, he's not really a center fielder. He's learning. This is the first time that's happened. Okay, I get it. But he makes up for it because he makes some other electric plays in the outfield, right? Like, that's going to happen also. He hasn't really had that opportunity yet. But Oneil Cruz is going to make some really, really fantastic plays that say, you know what? This is why he's also there. he can be a really good defender, but he has to clean up that stuff. But again, that's just the team's identity as a whole right now. Like it's not just Oneil Cruz. It's not just G1, but like it's the entire team right now. This is the identity of the team is we don't know how to play baseball. That's kind of the problem. So like I'm not solely putting the blame on Oneil. He certainly had a big part of it, but the whole team just kind of played that way, and that's the problem. But I guess to kind of just move on from that, you mentioned the bullpen for sure. You know, like the bullpen as a whole, they held strong. It's just like when you get to the late innings with Colin Holderman and Bednar, it looked much of the same as last year. It looked it, and is the few times that they were out there, but they didn't do their job. They didn't, and they have to. Like that's the thing is, the rest can carry to them, but if the 8th and 9th inning guys can't do their job, you're not going to win games. But outside of that, like you mentioned, like big kudos to everyone else. I know Santana looked shaky the first time, but he looked really good the second time. Bucco, it was okay. I'll kind of give that. Like it was okay. I think he could do better. He didn't lose anything. He was fine. But yeah, I got to give a big shout out to Joey Wentz, especially because that was my guy that's not making the team this year. And again, I know they lost, but he's the reason that they had the opportunity to win. And you mentioned, I mean, I don't know how they escaped those other few innings. Kudos to Joey Wentz for allowing them to, because the game probably should have ended earlier with the Marlins winning. It just ended later with the Marlins winning.
Yeah. I thought Caleb Ferguson too. I mean, 3
Yeah.
appearances for him. I thought he was really good. Yeah, it was again, I from a pitching standpoint, it was really just Bednar and Holderman who it's like you were the 2 most important guys in this bullpen, and they both broke down. And even Bednar's was just like I want to, like I said in yesterday's post game show, but it's like yesterday, like he gave up a 4-foot 50-mile-per-hour dribbler, and then that was it, and that guy scored. He threw 8 pitches, faced one plus batter, and lost on a 4-foot 56-mile-per-hour dribbler. Now the home runs still need to they need to figure something out. Like Bednar and Holderman, this is a pattern we've been seeing now. Like too many home runs given up. But like, I want to give Bednar a little bit more time. I feel like you do have to move him out of the closer's role though. So like Clifford asks here, you cannot keep putting David Bednar in save situations, and so I want to just get your thoughts there. Like I'm good with that. Like I'm good with maybe just bumping Bednar down in the pecking order a little bit. I don't know if I'm ready to name anybody a closer on this team, but I mean, you did see like David Bednar was the closer this series. Like he pitched in the 9th inning 3 times. So he was the closer. But I'm gonna say like that needs to stop for a bit. He needs to go out there and prove that he can pitch a clean inning, because so far he hasn't done that. The one save that he did get, he had a 3-run lead against the Miami Marlins, and he almost blew that. He got the save, but he almost blew it. Gave up 2 runs in that inning. So yeah, again, I'm to the point now where like you can't just keep putting him into the 9th inning in a tight game with the lead just over and over and over again. He's gonna have to show you that he can get these guys out on a semi-consistent basis in some other role. And then as far as the closer goes, just do like a closer by committee, whatever the matchup looks like. If it means if there's a couple lefties due up, put Ferguson in. If there's a couple righties due up, Santana is probably the guy. But right now, like that's where I'm at for the foreseeable future, is you just play matchups. And David Bednar, he just can't be that guy right now. I still believe in David Bednar. He can't be that guy right now.
I'm with you. I'm not faulting Derek Shelton for approaching the series in that way. That Bednar was like a la the closer. He was pretty vocal all spring. And early on, I thought it was just kind of lip service. Like, yeah, I mean, this is how it should be. Everyone should earn their job. But then who was saying it late in spring also, it was like, oh, maybe there's more to this. But like he said, like, we don't have a closer. Well, someone has to close a game, obviously. So you have to make a choice of who's going to do that. And like you said, it seemed as if David Bednar was the closer. And like, it's just weird because you can still debate it because, again, like Oneil Cruz catches that ball in the first game and we might not having the conversation. And just like, like yesterday, that how we were like, it's not all in David Bednar also, but it wasn't great. It wasn't great. And you said it, like, if you're saying that we're unsure there's a closer and so far he's kind of proving you to be right, then maybe there just shouldn't be a closer. Like, he hasn't done anything to say, I deserve to be the closer. So maybe Bednar just like, is it mental also? I don't know. Like, maybe David Bednar just has to kind of get in his
He's got to see the
groove
ball.
again.
Like, how in basketball, you got a good player and he just throwing up bricks. And it's like, let him see the ball go through the hoop. Like,
Right,
David Bednar
right.
needs to see the ball go through the hoop a couple
Exactly.
times.
Like, just put him in lower situations to just get that confidence back. Because I don't know enough, right? But like, maybe it's just like he doesn't have any confidence right now either. Like, he had that bad year and it's all in his mind. Like, I can't do that. I'm not this person. And mentally he's just not there. And this is what's happening. And like, you don't want to see him crumble and put him in the same situation if that's what it is. So you're like, yeah, maybe put him in some easier leverage situations to get his groove back, to get his confidence back, to get him back into that role. But I don't know. I don't know if Derek Shelton's ready. I can certainly see both sides. I'll say that. Like if he keeps him there, I don't think that's the correct decision. But I can also say, like, I mean, it wasn't all his fault either. If they really believe in him, okay. But like, if he has another series like this, absolutely not. But on the kind of point that what I want to say here too is like, Dennis Santana has earned every right to that role. Also, like, there are guys that you might feel pretty comfortable in allowing that to happen. By if you're going to remove David Bednar, it's not as if like you're moving David Bednar. It's like, well, some other misfit has to come here. I mean, Dennis Santana pitched excellent last year. He had a fantastic spring. I know the first time this season he looked shaky, he didn't perform, but the second time he did, and he's earned it. He's earning it. So, like, yeah, why not have like a little bit of a committee until maybe David Bednar gets his mentals back in state?
Yeah, I'm to that point right now where let him and Holderman pitch in some more lower leverage spots. See the ball go through the hoop. For the time being, Santana, Ferguson, Barucki, you guys are gonna have to step up and take those higher leverage moments.
And even Lawrence has done it in Colorado, and he also. I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying
No,
to
he
give it to
has.
him, but I'm saying like
Yeah.
that's the reason you're comfortable with this bullpen is there are some success stories in there. There are some people that can perform. Unfortunately, the ones that you feel least comfortable on are the late innings guys, the
Yeah.
ones you need to.
Everyone in that bullpen has had success at the major league level. Every one of them.
So, and I just mentioned that because like Lawrence has closed out games and he did in Colorado. So like he has that experience also. So there's options. All right. Well,
Let's talk about
we
this.
wanna,
Yeah.
move on
So
to the
the
race series.
good thing about baseball, you're turning the page. So Marlins are in the past. Teams staying in Florida. They're traveling across the state to Tampa Bay. Their first ever major league games in Steinbrenner Field, which is a boom box. We see it in spring training. The home runs kind of just fly out of there. It's a small ballpark. So yeah, I'm curious just to maybe this is what wakes up the offense. It's a little tiny ballpark. But no, they're going to be facing the Rays. And what's interesting is, I mean, it's Monday. There's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday games. We know that Carmen Mlodzinski is starting tonight. We know that Paul Skeens is starting Wednesday. We do not know who's starting tomorrow. My guess is that it's going to be a bullpen game. Would be my guess. I don't think they're going to call anybody up for that. But yeah, we're looking at a 3-game series against Tampa Bay Rays. They do come into this a little banged up. If you look at their roster right now, they got Ha-Sung Kim is going to be missing these first couple months. Josh Lau on the IL. Joshua Palacios' brother Richie on the IL. Shane McClanahan on the IL. So they're coming into this a little shorthanded too. Probable starters: Drew Rasmussen tonight, Shane Baz tomorrow,
Yep.
which will be kind of interesting to see, and then Ryan Pepiot on the mound Wednesday. So
the 39-year-old prospect.
yeah, he's 27, but yeah, he seems like he's been around forever. So yeah, it's this is a team that we're very familiar with, especially this time of year, because you play these guys once a week in spring training because they're so close to you. So we've seen a bunch of Junior Caminero and Yandy Diaz and Brandon Lau and Jonathan Aranda. Like these are guys we've been seeing all spring long. We've been seeing these pitchers kind of all spring long. They're a team where if you're looking in the AL East, they're not quite to that tier of, I think, the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Orioles, but they're still a pretty good team.
Yeah.
And this is they're better than the Marlins. So if you just lost 3 out of 4 to the Marlins, you're now heading to Tampa and you're facing a team better than them. I think what the Pirates are going to have to do this series, like you're going to need a shutdown outing from Skeens. Like I think that's just what you're going to need. But yeah, I think there's the ability here to score on. I mean, we've seen Rasmussen a bunch with his time in Milwaukee. We've seen him quite a bit. He was more of a reliever there, and then when he went to Tampa, became a starter. So they're guys that they're familiar with. I said, turn the page. Stay being aggressive on the bases. That's what I want to keep seeing. Stay aggressive on the bases, but you gotta execute a little bit offensively here.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it. There's certainly arm talent, like Pepiot you mentioned, Shane Baz, right? I mean, when Shane Baz is healthy, it's almost like the Tyler Glasnow thing. Like when he's healthy, he looks good. It's just he hasn't been healthy. Well, he's going to pitch, so he's healthy, right? So like the offense does have to come alive. And like you mentioned that the injuries and the Tampa Bay's offense has been good so far the year. Again, small sample, whatever. Don't really care too much about it. But they did perform last series without those guys. To me, this comes down to the bullpen. Unfortunately, because it is Carmen Mlodzinski starting this game. He's not a starter by trait. I know he's been stretching out. I don't know how much I trust him to go 5 or 6, at this point in time. So you're going to probably lean on the bullpen a bit for tomorrow's start. I mean, eventually Mlodzinski's going to get there. I don't know if this is the start where he goes 5. If it is, that's great. But I can't expect that from him in the same way I expect it from like a Paul Skeens or a Mitch Keller or whatnot, right? And then tomorrow, tomorrow, it appears it's going to be a bullpen game entirely. So to me, it comes down to the bullpen because Paul Skeens could be the stopper if needed to make sure they get the win on Wednesday. Other things have to happen, like in Miami when they didn't. But you feel comfortable with Paul Skeens starting Wednesday that if it's 1-1, they could come out and win this. But it comes down to that bullpen has to come together and pitch well on Tuesday. And again, with Carmen Mlodzinski, it might have to as well, a little bit more than you want it to. So yeah, this bullpen as a unit needs to come together if they're gonna have a fighting chance against the Rays. Because on the other end too, you trust that the Rays are gonna find a way to win a bullpen game if needed. That's what they do, right? The pitching comes in, they're gonna find a way. No, they
basically invented. The Rays basically invented the bullpen game.
So the Pirates are gonna have to find a way to come together with this bullpen to win these games.
Yeah. The other option too, and this is just throwing this out here, is it possible you bring up one of these AAA starters for tomorrow? I think that's also I think depending on how the bullpen goes, like if Majinski's say if Majinski's only able to go like 3 innings and you need to go to this bullpen and you start taxing guys, that may change things. So I wonder if they haven't like I wonder if they have a plan in mind for what they want to do, but like stuff could change depending on how tonight's game goes.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one thing is like AAA, Indianapolis got rained out Saturday, rained out Sunday. They haven't played since
Right.
Friday, so like they've got everybody available down there. So if you have to tap into this bullpen quite a bit today, do you maybe shift gears and go with a spot start from Harrington or Burrows or Ashcraft, one of those guys? I don't think they quite add Bubba to the 40-man just yet, but I could see that happening too with this. I think a lot of it just depends on how tonight goes. Like if the bullpen, like I said, if the bullpen needs to pitch 5-6 innings after 4 guys went yesterday, they might shift gears there. But
That's
it's
a real
going to be
possibility.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting though, because I mean, this is Carmen Majinski's really, really his first real start since Double A. He looked good in spring. He's got a starter's arsenal. We'll see how he holds up over the course of multiple innings. We've really only seen him go like 2 at a time, typically. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to seeing like regular season starter Carmen Majinski, because if he shows that he's capable of doing this, and it's just going to be one game, but if he's capable of being that guy who can give you 5 to 6 solid innings, like his value all of a sudden shoots through the roof as a member of this team, which is why he wanted to do this in the first place. He wanted to be as valuable as possible. So I'm going to really be keeping my eye on him today just to see, hey, how does this look? How does this stuff hold up over the course of multiple innings? How does he look? Like, does he face the lineup for the third time? He hasn't done that in the majors ever. So yeah, that's going to be my main thing watching this series is, what does Carmen Majinski look like completely stretched out? Or is that how they intend to use him? I mean, Bucco Mike's in the comments, and he thinks that, and he calls him Runskowski. But Bucco Mike thinks that this is going to be like a bullpen piggyback situation. So that could also happen. Like they could say, all right, Majinski, you're facing the lineup 2 times through, no matter what. Like you're not going out there for the 3rd time through. And then we're going to go to like Joey Wentz for a couple innings. So yeah,
that's where I feel most
how they
comfortable with
approach
him.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's how I feel most comfortable. But you do make a good point. I don't know. As far as TBD, we'll find out. You assume it's a bullpen game because of that, but yeah, I mean, you're right. Indianapolis really hasn't played. It's been rained out, so like you could just say like, hey, hop on over and make your first start in for the Pirates because we kind of need you right now. You're going back, but hey, there's an opportunity. You didn't pitch. Let's bring in Harrington, like you're mentioning. Like he didn't make the team, but he's actually going to make a start for this team in their first week. That's a real possibility. And again, like it could be coming down because what happens today, because I mean, they went the extra innings, like the bullpen was used. I'm not gonna say it's taxed, but like there is no days off. Right? They're going right into Tampa. The reuse there. And if they have to be used today and tomorrow, maybe you make that decision. So I guess, we'll find out. That's an interesting perspective. The whole thing with Majinski is I'm not much of a believer, but you're correct. Like that's where he's going to find his value. If he can do this, he's absolutely valuable because this team needs a guy like Majinski to step up to be that person. Because with already the Oviedo news and of course with Jared Jones, I mean, if Majinski can't step up to be this, that's going to be huge in a clutch spot for him. But again, I'm not ready to
sold. Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to say like we're not sold on this. Like
no.
He hasn't
And
done
I know
it
you're
since
not. I'm just saying, like, I'm not really sold out. I'm worried.
Yeah.
I do think what might be best is like a piggyback situation for him. So yeah, I guess we'll find out how they intend to use him today.
Yeah. I think once you get into a 3rd time through, like that's where I'm curious to see if they let that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
how many it does, it probably means he's pitching well.
How many outs does it take to get to the 3rd?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many outs can you get in 18 batters, Carmen?
Right. So we'll find out. But cool. Anything else you want to add in here?
I want to see better fundamentals on the field this series. Like that's got to be the thing where like that needs to stop immediately. Like that's one of like you can't just progressively get better at that. That's something where like the players know better. The players know they messed up. The players know they didn't make the right decisions. That needs to stop. Like you can't just continue to repeat bad behavior on the field. So I need to see a difference between the way that they were executing out in the field from that Miami series. That's the other thing I'm looking at.
1000%.
Oneil Cruz has to make throws to the correct bases. He needs to catch routine fly balls. Jack Swinski can't be diving for balls that he doesn't have a chance at that lead to runners advancing to a base in a big situation. So like these are things like they need to clean those things up immediately.
1000%. And that's what I want to reiterate here. Like it wasn't just one or even two people. Like you talk about, we mentioned Cruz. We've already talked about Bay, right? How terrible. But like, yeah, Jack looked horrible. And he just, it is whatever. But like he mishandled the ball at first. He looked good though overall, but like that happened. And then he sailed a ball to second, trying to throw out a runner. Joey Bart just not catching a baseball as a catcher. Right, Tommy Pham being sent on the coaching side there. I mean, just like everyone had a part in this. Everybody did. The team as a whole has to be better. So I'm with you. I want to see a change in the mindset. I want to see that like, hey, we were held accountable. We got to be better, and let's be better. So,
yep.
All right, cool. Well, I'm excited. Still baseball. And like you mentioned about the stadium, I don't know, maybe the mindset of like it's a spring training stadium they played at often. They're back and like, hey, we were good at spring training. let's go win this game.
Good, yeah. I mean, it's a spot they're comfortable and they've played in the stadium a ton. So
right,
yeah, see how it goes.
So maybe that helps them get back there. I don't know. We'll find out.
Maybe.
But all right. Well then, Jim, our very first Bucco Brew has come to a close.
Great time.
We're out of here. We appreciate y'all. Go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and hit that bell. As always, we go live after every game for a post-game show. If the Pirates win, we give out 4 Permane Brothers sandwiches. But of course, the Pirates have to do their part for us to do that. So hopefully we'll be back tonight giving out free sandwiches. But yeah, we'll be on the post-game tonight after the game. So come back and see us then. Until then, though, have a great Monday. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
See you guys. All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for tuning in, whether you're listening on the podcast or catching us on YouTube. If you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucs.